Welcome to What's Your Sign? I'm Julia Loken.
I'm Stevie Goldstein.
And I'm the wooden telescope of this
Oh, is
podcast.
that our 5-year gift?
I want it to be, but it isn't.
Yeah, that would be
Because that
amazing.
sounds super expensive, but maybe in the future.
It
But
sounds
gorgeous.
splintery.
Well, it was the only
No.
thing I could think of with 3 legs. That's
Ooh.
wood for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was looking through the list of those because I just had a 6-year anniversary and I was like iron. And it's interesting to see it move through like gemstones to like materials. And there's like this one streak, I think it's in your 40s, that's like moves to the elements like fire, air, stone as earth or what have you. But the shit's cute. I can't believe it's
Yeah,
been 5 years.
5 years.
I know everyone says that when it's like an anniversary time, but I literally can't believe it's been 5. Only because two of them were kind of blurry with like global circumstances.
Yes.
Hey,
Uh,
global circumstances still be circumstancing.
Mm-hmm.
mm-hmm.
Well,
Pods
it
still be podding, even in it was like the one thing that I mean, that was like the change I know we talked about when the pandemic hit was like, oh, we could do this over Zoom. Like, duh. Like that makes sense. So something we have kept from the pandemic is virtual recording.
well, I feel like it, like many relationships, was kind of like okay, we're gonna commit to continuing to do this despite the circumstances and figuring out a way that actually, is a different way, but also a interesting like step forward and a commitment to our production. And I think that is like I don't know, it feels very 5 years to me, where it's like, oh yeah, and also
Mm-hmm.
like it doesn't feel like 5 years, and also this feels like such a thing that's integrated and a central part of my life, that it feels both like it just started and like it's always been there.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like
Aww.
to talk about some of the things that we have done, but first of all, I think we should talk about what's coming up
Oh yes.
because
Yes.
we're
Yes.
having a live show for our 5-year anniversary on the 15th of February. We also have recorded a few of our In the Stars for Amazon Prime that we'd love for you guys to check out. If you haven't checked them out, just go on Amazon Prime's YouTube page. We break down characters from your favorite Prime TV shows. And then also we have an upcoming, I guess, surprise that will be really fun for everybody. I don't even know what to say, but there's
I know.
more. And something we're really excited about doing is going to probably come out in the next month or two.
Yeah. Stay tuned. Big stuff happening over here at
I'm here like, wait, what are
WIS.
we doing? But it sounds cool.
It is going to
It
be
is
cool.
cool.
I'm like, cool surprise. Yeah, I know. I think I'm excited to be in person. We've already like started to do that. Oh, okay. That's the surprise. Oh yeah, that's a big one. Oh
Yeah,
fuck.
there's big stuff coming
Mhm.
up.
Well, we've been tinkering. We've been little elves back here tinkering behind the scenes. Like we're gonna have if you our Patreon too, patreon.com/what's your sign podcast. If you're listening to this on the date it's released, so it's February 13th. Come March 1st, we're revamping the Patreon. It's going to be one single tier at 777 a month. That's $7.77. Angel blessings. Get in our Discord. That's where we're going to be able to suggest episode themes. It's where we're going to be able to ask questions. We're going to have more listener questions for our 5 years and beyond, starting in Aries season. We're just going to vamp a little bit, a little more formatting. I mean, I would be horrified to listen to an episode from like June 2018. Like I just don't even know what.
Oh, your girl listened to the first episode this morning.
Oh,
Wow. I have someone who's doing a re-listen now, and I was like, please forgive me for anything that we said.
sure we were fine, but I'm just like that's a different human being. I would
Yeah.
think that's old cells. Like don't we recreate new cells like every 7 years or something? Like we're
Yeah.
almost a
Mm-hmm.
new person soon.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised at how much I wasn't cringing.
Oh,
Like it wasn't as like
okay.
I mean it's not like my favorite or
Yeah.
anything, but
Was it
I
the mini episode or was
the
it the
mini app
full first? Okay, cool.
and I just um I just listened through for because I know we went through the signs and like
Mm-hmm.
how to reel one in or whatever. So I went through and listened and like I wrote some more if we want to do that. We don't have to do it now.
Yes.
Oh yes, I
But
would love to revisit.
I feel like I also listened on like 1.5 speed. So maybe it was that. I feel like we've gotten better about talking over each other and those kind of
Mm,
things. But besides that, it's still the same three people.
wow.
Oh.
Oh, that's good. I mean, yeah, I think if it was like absolutely horrendous, I guess we wouldn't have kept going. Or like, people might have said like, I don't know. It like I think that's like been the fun part too. It's just been because people ask all the time, like, how do you start a podcast or what how did this happen or blah blah. And it's like you just start talking and push record and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I think going back to like not ever really stopping or like taking a break even in really wild times like pandemics and getting married and times where we probably should have maybe taken a break. We do bank, peek behind the curtain. We will bank up during busier times. So, but it's been so integral of like my astrology learning and also like feeling good. I like just looking at our chart as a pod too. I'm like, oh my God, we're Pisces Venus in the 10th house. Like this is a healing practice. This is self exploration. I truly need y'all's insight on everything in my life, astro or otherwise, because you both think we're not like wildly different people, but we do have very different perspectives. And I appreciate both of yours so much because it helps me better define mine too. So I just love you both so much.
Oh, I love you guys too.
I do too. I find that when we have moments when we bank or stuff, the wedding stuff didn't feel necessarily this way because we still got to see each other a bunch and celebrate each
Yes.
other a bunch. But sometimes when like someone's on vacation or we have to bank a bunch of episodes, those weeks, like it feels like I haven't seen you in years. Like
Oh,
I
I
come
hate,
back and
yeah.
I'm like, oh, I like it's so um it's so part of my week now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Banking's it's not my ideal. Like I'd love to be more up with the times too. And then too, if we like make like pop culture references, it's like, okay, well, nobody cares about Baby Shark,
Yeah.
month later
Well,
or whatever. Well, actually, the people still all really do care about Baby Shark. But
I think that we, as much as we are an Aquarius, we
Mhm.
also have, the mutability, which is very of the moment. And I think that while it sometimes makes you worry, like, oh, are we saying something cringe or are we going to be, is this going to sound so dated later and whatever? There's also something that is like, I don't know, a release for each other. And I think also for hopefully for the people listening, where it is like, I don't know, it's something that kind of needs to be, I don't know, said at the moment or commented on or processed in some kind of way. And I think
Mhm.
that that is like vulnerable to do. It's scary because you don't know, you are kind of like flying without a net.
Mhm.
But it also, I think we need people to do that.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm like the rest of society rewatching Girls right now, and I don't know. I guess we're all collectively predicting the or not pandemic recession, all the other horrible tormenting things that come. But it's interesting watching it now, a full decade later, because you see cell phones and screens, and like they're talking about Facebook messaging each other, and stuff that feels like I don't know, like it's a choice to mark the time. And I think so many times people will make like a movie or something, be like, I don't want to see any phones. It needs to feel like it could be any time or whatever. And rewatching it actually made me really appreciate like, oh no, if when we make things, we should show the screen. Like I'm even thinking about when we all first got on Be Real. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be so funny to listen to that later on when it's like, who gives a fuck about Be Real or that's so old. Okay, grandma. But I think choosing to show when you're creating something, I don't know. I like
Well,
history and stuff
we're
like that. And I think it's important.
we're an astrology podcast. We're supposed to be talking about the time and what's happening specifically to this moment. And I think it is a thing that like I wouldn't have known necessarily when we started doing this that would be part of it. But also thinking back to how that is a reflection itself of what's going on. And there are probably ways that the transits and the astrology itself is influencing our recording that we weren't even aware of, or that if we were to look back would be so funny. But I mean, yeah, it's like it is a time capsule in that way. And of course things are going to sound dated. It's supposed to be updated. It's the past and now we're here.
Yeah. Wait, Lisa, what were you prompting that we redo what we did back in 2018?
I wrote down a few things. I also wrote down things I love about the signs and things I love about y'all, and just more free-balling, journaling type stuff. But we can do that if you want to.
Oh no, yeah, I'll follow your lead.
Yeah. I'll go through the signs and how to attract each sign, I guess, is the easiest way to describe this.
Yeah.
I also was trying to look up the natal chart for girls and see what about it makes it feel like so now, but I didn't really find anything that stuck out so much.
Yeah, what's the premiere date on girls?
I mean, Saturn Libra,
April 15th, 2012. Yeah. Well, that was at the South by Southwest premiere. So I don't know. Well, I want the HBO premiere. I think that
we're in that eclipse reversal then.
Well, it says the North Node's in Sag. So we've just had that, I think. The reversal, right? Yeah.
Okay, it did premiere at HBO April 15th, 2012.
Okay.
Also Jupiter Taurus, which is coming this year. But nothing that felt like, oh, this has to be like this or whatever.
When does it say when the last episode is or when it ends?
I didn't.
Let me see. I mean, I think it ended.
Sorry to get into
total of 62 episode. The final episode it concluded on April 16th, 2017.
Okay. This to me Aries also feels a little Uranus and Taurus reflection in terms of, I don't know, just distance in terms of like who we value in culture, and also thinking, I know Lena Dunham is a Taurus, and thinking about
so is Jessa too, because I've been looking up their charts as I've been going.
Having that Jupiter and Taurus, too, just thinking about these more kind of like, I don't know, physical, practical, sensual themes that I think are there, and of women, I don't know, like living their lives or whatever, and thinking about how that like sparked conversations and how it has spread out into our own evaluation of our lives, and then seeing these kinds of things too, where it's like, oh wow, that's crazy that like, I don't know how far we've come, and also how far we've not come.
Well, it's also, I think too, watching any HBO show pre HBO Max is you're going to get like probably a really good show, because we also weren't churning out just old anything. And you can just see how much time and tenderness and actual writing. Like I was just watching this like, oh my God, I was such an asshole to Lena Dunham in my critiques or whatever. It's like, she's a good writer. And like, these are really interesting relationships of these friends. And I think even they make a nod to Sex in the City all the time. Like they're talking about which Sex in the City characters they are. And I think it's just very, and thinking of the North Node and Sag there, it's kind of, and Saturn and Libra, it's sort of like a why not? Like, why not show something like this? And who to, those things always look corny now because we've seen so many replicas of it. But when you're the first-ish one, it's very, and also the choices of music, like it just leaned into who it was at the time too. And I think that's, I encourage more of that.
It's also making me think though of the different time with the internet, where I feel like 100%. Now
they weren't online at all.
Yeah, but also now like the internet is girls essentially, where it's like not totally, but it's like that. It's so we see so many people's lives, and when there are so many kind of different voices and images and all of this kind of stuff. And I feel thinking about that not being an HBO Max, being a primetime Sunday, you got to tune in live
We are collectively
event
talking about it.
yeah, event television and how different that is compared to now where you can I don't know. Wow.
I think
Wow.
it's really easy to say you've been too hard on Lena Dunham when you've never been asked to play her in a sketch.
Okay, Lisa, that is a hate crime, and I'm sorry.
I know.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I've been talking about it for 10 years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and maybe I did talk about this on Patreon, or maybe I've just been talking to whoever will listen about girls. But my last take on it too, I think it's very refreshing to watch friends just have messy fights. I've been on a tear just thinking of like, the HRification of personal relationships, like having very therapized language when we're like having our fights or talks with our friends. And it's just fun to see people call each other like a bitch and be like, you suck. You're making me so mad. You're so selfish. Like, I think there's something, especially like hearing like the younger kids talk about it, like, whoa. And it's like, yeah, we used to just like pop off at each other. Like you would just have a messy ass fight. You would sleep with your friend's boyfriend and you'd be like, well, it's okay because there's enough time has passed or whatever it is. So I think, yeah, I don't know. I didn't being nostalgic for being an asshole was, I think, also what has bubbled up watching girls, where it's like, oh God, we have advanced as a people. We are very kind and understanding and thoughtful, but are we supposed to be that kind and understanding and thoughtful? I think we might need to be little cunts.
I mean, I think we do if we're having to interact with both intimate people and total strangers at an almost simultaneous and equal rate. And I think thinking about something that I think was like great about girls, or what was hopefully the intention, and I think that Lena Dunham is like on record of saying this, of being like, it is supposed to be kind of our worst, our messy tendencies are not the worst. I think it's supposed to be grounded in reality too, but that idea of like, this is a place for us to watch that and to work it out and to identify and go, oh, I've been a Jessa, I've been a Marnie, I've been a whatever. And like, I don't know, reflect on your own life instead of it being like, we need to commemorate our life every day or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you know
it's not like aspirational. It's just,
yes.
It's just like, oh, it's a real bitchy messes.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Enough about Lena fucking Dunham. Good God.
we
gotta get her on. Can you imagine? I'll
just not be here that day.
It's like, I can't believe
she can play me.
Guest host Lena Dunham.
Actually, could you play Lisa Chanou on our podcast?
The tables have finally turned.
Should we talk about how to attract love from each sign of the zodiac?
Oh my gosh, sure.
These are from the only astrology book you'll ever need, but I picked ones that I felt were not ones that were mentioned before, and also that they're felt true. Like some of them feel like, oh, maybe, but these ones felt like, oh, okay, I can see it.
Okay.
Number 1, my favorite sign, my husband, Aries. Joanna Martine Woolfolk says to let them solve your problem.
Ooh. Oh, that's interesting.
Wow.
Oh my God. I never thought of that as an Aries quality, but it so is. They're surprisingly helpful.
Yeah, they really are.
They are.
But it's like but not in a Virgo way. Like in a like I can show you that I can get this. Look, if you follow my guidance, you're like, it's like a motivational speaker, like sort of like, I have the secret and this is gonna blow your fucking socks off.
I think Virgo is like a cleanup. There is an instructional, this is what you did and this is how you should have done it. Instead of Aries, I think solving a problem is more like, well, there's just a clear way forward. There's no discussion about whatever, and there's no even thinking about how we got here. It's just, this is what you do next.
I don't think of Aries as like, I do think of them as problem solvers, but I don't think of them as someone that you're like, I need to rush to them with my problem. So I feel like it is good advice to know that they're open to that. And especially because I think Aries is such a headstrong sign. They go with the flow, they do what they want, but like, they truly do care about other people. They're not just like, I know it gets put on selfish, but they're not really like that selfish.
I
No,
think it's more just like not metally or whatever. They're not
Yeah.
necessarily taking
it's
it on as their
simple.
own, or even the idea, like, I don't want to say unprincipled, because I don't think that that's the case, but I think, again, if we're going like in comparison to like a Virgo critique, I
Mhm.
think there is an idea about the way that everything is done. There is a way of being, as opposed to the Aries just like, no, this is just what you do. Like, that's, it's
Mhm.
just so intuitive. Again, the my
Only because it's my chart ruler with the Aries moon. It just made me think. And I think this is good advice about going to Aries, maybe for when you do just need to hear that simple kind of gut reaction, because Aries is just so it lovingly, with love, I say like fishbowl, like goldfish, like what? It just sounds like that. Like it's so like A to B. But I was thinking, because I was talking with a dear friend. She'll know who she is because I know she listens, and I won't reveal too much of your business. But she was talking to me about two people who have been bothersome to her, and I was just like, "Hey, wait, which person are you talking about? Because they sound the same." And she's like, "They are giving me the same problems." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't even realize I just helped
solved
Blew
it.
did a
your mind.
breakthrough."
Yeah.
Because I like literally did not know who the fuck she was talking about. Like, I'm like, wait, are you talking about that girl or that guy? Because they're both giving you the same headache. And you're just like, this is the same headache. And I'm like, cool.
My
Um,
shoulders just relaxed. It wasn't even my problem, and I relaxed hearing that.
well, it's good to be like, it's like there. I don't think Aries is not very biased. Like
Mm-mm.
it just. I think that's and maybe that's why they're the opposite of Libra, and I think they can have those very like, who did what? Yeah, you sound like the asshole. Or no, they sound like horrible. Or like this sounds like that. Like,
It,
and it's not too convoluted.
it's
Yeah,
that
they're
first
willing to hear it.
impression.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
think that,
first
like,
impression.
and I think that that often is our right one. We get told that we need to hear everything out and hear all of the information, because that will actually help us make a more informed,
Mm-hmm.
decision. But a lot of times your first thought is the one that you go with. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
that is where we get that, like, mwah, Aries.
I love them.
Wow, I
Next
love
is
that.
Taurus. This is loaded because there's two of us. I picked this one because no one's ever done it to me, but I do think I would really like it. Show them a prized possession.
Oh,
Ooh.
I feel like it oftentimes, I do feel I also have Cancer moon, so maybe that's that. But like, if someone was like, "This is my pocket watch from my great grandfather" on a date, that would definitely be something that would spark conversation with me. I wouldn't like move past it quickly. It doesn't feel like something that would, or even like, I don't know. I think about like crystals that I have in my purse or something. Like when people show me stuff like that, I'm always like, "Wow,
mm-hmm.
that's really cool."
I
I
like it's
think
creative storytelling as well. Like it's not just surface level or this. It's sharing and I'm thinking now of the opposite with Scorpio, right? Because I think there's going to be tethers of like what's attracting for those polarities. It's like it's showing a bit of, if this is my grandfather's pocket watch, it's like you probably don't show this to everybody. There's
Everybody,
something a little
yeah.
exclusive about it as well.
I think it's also very Venusian in
Mm-hmm.
terms of what you
Things.
value. And also I think the actual physicality of it too, not like an amorphous value. This is a physical thing that I carry around, so you can also see what that is. How do they care for it? What does it look like? What is, like, how is it just like floating around in their purse? Is it in a pocket? Is it a thing? I don't know. That's very Taurian to me, Venusian.
I
I
love it.
also feel like, she uses the word possession or whatever, which I think is a Taurus word.
Second
But
house stuff.
Mm-hmm.
but I do think it can be a scar or I don't think it necessarily has to be a physical thing. I feel like for the most part, when we're dating someone, we get exposed to those kind of things like when we go over to their place for the first time. And so I do think that's an interesting tactic just in general in dating, is like bringing something with you that might be interesting. And it's not like, hey, let's hop in the Uber so I can show you this card my mom wrote me. Like, not that. But if there is something that you carry with you or something that makes you feel special or important, even if it's a piece of clothing, like, I feel like that isn't something we show quickly. And it might be a way to build intimacy.
I like that. I like
Yeah.
thinking of it as also a thing that you are willingly showing them, not making them do the digging work. It's not a thing that they noticed. Again, not to say that Tauruses aren't going to notice those things, but I think the act of saying like, here I am presenting this to you feels very I don't know, like
I love a show and
lush.
tell.
Yeah, or
Yeah, I
something
think
like,
it's
here, look
cool.
at that. Let's enjoy this. It's a thing that you can like enjoy and look at together and also like hear about, as opposed to you going like, what's the deal with this?
Well, can you imagine if you showed someone something special and they're like, "Oh, cool." I'll be like, "That's it?" Like, no. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just opened up like give me now it's time for you to share. Like now we'll talk about our connection to pocket watches or whatever it is. So, not to say I mean, maybe that's making me realize Tauruses might also run tests just like a Scorpio does, but that's what I think is like I'd want you to feel special that I'm now declaring you special enough to see this thing that I'm not going to show just anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Gemini. Um, Joanna mentions that they don't want to see like conformism, that they kind of want to see you thinking outside the box. And I think that's definitely true. Obviously, I think Geminis get in communication stuff that they like to answer questions or ask questions and they're curious and those kind of things. But I think non-conforming is something we always put with Aquarius. And
Mm-hmm.
so I found that an interesting way into their heart. I do think they're challengers. I do think they pick stuff apart. It doesn't necessarily mean I feel like they're not as like stuck in their like decisions as Gemini, right? Like, so yeah, we're non-conforming for a second here and then like moving on to the next thing. And it's not like I forever believe like this thing or whatever. It's just having a interesting dissenting opinion, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like an honest opinion, like an actual, not just like what it says on the thing or being like, yes, I like that. It's saying like, oh, I actually hate pickles or whatever. I'm not thinking of a good example
Non-political
now.
example.
Yeah.
I think of music when I think of Gemini too. And I feel like I know many Geminis who will judge. And I don't think Geminis get enough credit for being how judgmental they can be. And we all are to varying degrees. But I think if you're just served what's on the radio, it's like you're not going to search for a better song, like, or you're not going to search for something that's more interesting or connect that you connect to. Like, I don't think Gemini wants, unlike Aries, that does want to go with the first option or like, yeah, that works. Like, that's easy. Same with Taurus. I think Gemini does want to, what you said, Lisa, like picking something apart or feeling like there's choice or like you can go a different direction. So I think yeah, I feel like I could see like a cute date being like digging through vinyl, like going like thrifting or like searching through things like and finding like back to the sort of treasure hunt thing because the signs do build on each other. But I like it with thinking of it with Sag too, back since I'm in this polarity kick as well as like because I think of Sag as very non-conforming. So it makes sense that Gemini, yeah, they're not just gonna be like, here's this thing. It's like modifying a shirt or like doing something a little different. Like getting it just out the box is not very Gemini.
Mm-hmm.
I think it feels to like safe to them too to know that they can give their opinion and like it wouldn't be, even if it's not like the most popular opinion, that it wouldn't be judged that way because sometimes they do just like say shit they don't mean.
Mm-hmm.
So like
100.
yeah.
Yeah. Don't, it might change also. Like just
Well,
be fine with it not being a forever statement.
I think it's also just an evidence of like thought as opposed to you just eat what's in front of you or whatever. It's like you can have I think a miss man, maybe that's not true. I was going to say I think you can have like a conforming opinion, but you have to also show your work as to why an opinion stands or whatever. Something there to show that you have thought this through, that this is an opinion or something you've researched or something, as opposed to I actually don't know anything about this.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. Next is Cancer. I think that obviously Cancer is a very like datey sign. Like even just seems like, oh, they're like sweet and they have a big heart and they're romantic and blah blah blah. The thing that stood out to me here was romantic music. Or it said like, theater or whatever that they would appreciate like being in those feelings and hearing those sounds or whatever. Um, I like that notion because I feel like a lot of the times, obviously, it's out of our control in most date spaces. And so I think thinking about what a place sounds like before going to it is a really interesting challenge. Um, Obviously, like a rom-com or something, or like a play that has a romantic arc to it would be the simplest way. But I do think that there are places that feel like I feel like even the Dresden here in LA, like I know it's not they're not playing like love songs, and I know it's not the same people that used to play music there anymore, but it feels romantic. Like there's a good acoustic to it. It's dark. It's like
Lighting's
yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
it just feels like and that it doesn't necessarily feel like cancery or homey by any means, but I think just the challenge of like the music, I do think it would be a fun date for a cancer.
I think
Mhm.
thinking about that, I think that I love that. And also the light specifically thinking of like Cancer as being ruled by the moon and wanting to not be necessarily shown in a bad light or something like very literally, but also in one that it's like the being sensitive to how what's like the vibe that you're going to be around what's the thing that we're setting and kind of wanting to I don't know. I don't want to say like set them up, but to be mindful of that as opposed to putting them in a thing where they're like working hard to not have to overcome a lot.
Yeah, don't bring a Cancer to overhead lighting. They'll be they're sensitive. Like so
Mm-hmm.
like lighting, sound, smells, taste. I think that they're going to feel all those things. And I'm thinking of Capricorn too. Like I think Capricorn just wants to maybe be in charge of maybe setting the sounds, tastes, whatever it is, but yeah, I think Cancer definitely can have that, whatever movie they last watched is their new personality. So I think they could be very empathetic and floaty and changey. So yeah, if you put them in the Dresden, which is stone walls and good booths and there's music, like it's gonna make them want to open up and like it's like, oh, it's dark and safe and I can show a little more of myself versus maybe being, I don't know, picking up booze at Walmart in the bright lights, be like, yeah, this is not sexy. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is like a job.
Mm-hmm.
I want to feel sexy on a date. Also, I'll have to do like a whole maybe Patreon episode just on the Pamela Anderson doc alone. But God, if you want to just see, if just watch that, this is that like living romantically, being wooed, getting flowers, like it's just sweet. It puts you in the mood. It shouldn't feel like yeah, like as Pam says, why can't we live a romantic life every day? Like, is it shows you the separation of like something being special. So, oh, I like yeah,
Mm-hmm.
sound is key.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say overhead lighting's probably not a great date spot.
Oh yeah,
For any
all
But
sign,
signs.
all
maybe
signs.
maybe a museum, and usually I would say those things are daytime where there's lighting coming in other ways as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, and I'm like a heads up or whatever too, like
I was just thinking that.
a clear deciding, thinking of like that Cancer shell too, of like making sure they feel properly armed, not in a defensive way, but in a way where it's like, oh well, how could I'm without my shell, how can I possibly excel in this moment or whatever. Like if I'm coming out, it needs to be in a contained
Mm-hmm.
way.
And check the moon. Back to the moon too. Like if the moon's in
Mm-hmm.
Sag, maybe it is time to put on the sneakers and get on a horse or like go hiking. If it's in Taurus, maybe it's time to go into like a good Italian restaurant. So I think cancers don't only need to be coddled and romanticized and be like, God, another poem, but I think checking what they're feeling like doing too, like asking a cancer, like, do you want to do something more intimate or do you want to do something more adventurous?
Mm-hmm.
totally. Next is Leo. Tough one. As I always say, I don't have a lot of them. Um, Joanna mentions that it should be posh. And I think that's up for interpretation, that word. But also mentions that they don't like heavy makeup.
Oh,
And I think that's an interesting um challenge again to like find something to do that isn't just getting dressed up and going to dinner with a Leo, because I do think that's like where everybody's mind goes. It's like steakhouse or whatever. And of course, Joanna mentions those things too. It's not to say like that those things don't, work or exist. But fun, like you're saying, hiking or going to the beach or something where wearing heavy makeup would be a little bit weird. Like, so I think finding those challenges, because Leos like doing that stuff too. They're not just like going out to dinner every night. They have like a life.
I think
They
Posh in the
might be going out
way,
to dinner every
I
night,
mean,
actually.
yes.
Maybe, but like they
But
also like going to the beach, I think, and
yes,
like
I was
doing other
like,
stuff.
Day and
Yeah.
night.
there also is a beachside restaurant that you go to in your caftan and your hat and all of this. I think it's Posh in the way where it's like we are prepared for all of these things. If you're taking me to the beach, we're not like sitting down in the sand. It's with a blanket that you have thought what we might do. And we have some snacks. It doesn't have to be the fanciest thing. I think it's just in that way where it's like we are cared for and thought of. And, again, I think it's a similar like wanting to be in the best light sort of thing where it's like don't come full faced makeup and be like we're going on a hike. That sets me up to be like feel silly, or you can't actually like help me. Are you going to let me fall down the mountain because you're so worried about your outfit or whatever, like that kind of, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Leo too is, of course, they look great. Like they're born that way, but they all are heart ruled and they do want connection too. And I am married to one and I do have Leo friends. And I feel like a lot of the times they just want to be next to you. Like they just want to, it doesn't have to be anything too complicated. Like if they like you, they like you. So they could do whatever. I feel like most of my dates with Pablo, it's just you guys are, it's like, you know me, but it is like we're doing like a late night dark steakhouse, red bottles. Like if we're gonna do that, we're Ubering, getting bottles of wine. Like let's do it. Like let's bacchanal, or we just like are, or we always say like, oh, do you want to go on like our European date, which is just bringing a blanket to the park, sitting in the sun, and bringing a book and cheese and cracker. Like, but with like little talking, like it'll be like tons of wine at night, like gossipy, digging in, diving, or like a lion, or we sit in the sun all day and don't say much and we just exist next to each other, or like pop some mushrooms and just hang out and like but we're there with each other.
Yeah,
there's a full day too.
Yeah.
Like
a language
doing both. Yeah.
This is one that can't be rushed, I feel like, either, where
For
again it's like if
sure.
you have somewhere to be, like, what, no, we're taking our time, we're ordering dessert, we're sitting, we're gonna have coffee, and we're gonna talk afterward. I think that's
second
also,
location, nightcap, like we're
there's
keeping it
something
going.
posh about that. Again, it's not
Very.
the actual expense of it, it's the like we don't have anywhere else to be except for this. We can walk to the thing, we're not at anyone else's whim.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I mean, I'm married to a posh motherfucker. Like getting a compliment at or like, not for me, but for the food is just very like, wow, you have to really like this thing. And also, I think like, yeah, why we're out? Why wouldn't we get an appetizer? Why wouldn't we get like the thing? Like, why would we hold ourselves back if this is a night we decided we're gonna do it?
I feel like the challenge here is that the park book is just as posh as the steak dinner.
Oh, it's so, yes.
It's just that you don't think of that when someone says posh.
Well, I remember first dating Pablo. He's like, what are you reading? I'm like, oh, I should read books, shouldn't I? Like, oh, I should. Yeah. And it was like he's like, oh, I'm reading this new book. Like, let's just like pick up some coffees and croissants and sit in the park. I'm like, that is chic. Like, yes. Yeah. Okay. Hot. I'm just going to sit with this like hot dude and read. Okay. Yeah. Smart and sexy.
Yeah, Leo.
Hell yeah. We have Virgo. 2 notes from Joanna. One is to talk about their pets. They like to talk about their pets. And the second is to let them worry.
Oh my God. Wow.
Don't think it's about you. If you let them worry, let them figure out the place, let them, tinker and all of that.
Ooh, wow. I love that because it's the process, the processing and the necessary. That would be like, you don't just eat the food and it comes right out. It's got to go through your digestive tract and get all broken down and split up and used all the parts.
And it's interesting thinking with pets and worry too, because I feel like pets are just, God, they're just nature's antidepressants. Like it's just like, oh yes, I don't. Hopefully, like that worry isn't towards the pet, but the pet is that calming force of like caring for something that's so sweet and tender. My Virgo mom sent me a very cute picture of her cat in her lap while they were watching HGTV today. So I'm feeling that. And the amount of times I've also yelled at her, not that I'm trying to pick up my mom, but I'm just very acquainted with Virgo worrying energy. And it's like, she said, just let me, this is my happy place. Like, just let me fret, just let me wring my hands and call 400 people and live in stress because it makes me feel in control. And it's like, oh, okay, right. This is one Virgo with Pisces. Ooh, I know Virgo and Pisces again, the polarity that it's a unique one. Is there a connection here? I'm not
Worry.
Yeah, worry, I think for sure.
Yeah, I guess more dread and doom for Pisces, but rather than day-to-day worry, existential worry for Pisces.
I think for both of them, though, it's about knowing that things need to be perpetually moving and going, and they can't just stop. And I think that worrying and also like whatever that is about knowing that we don't want things to get held up too long or get off track because we're keeping like the cycles moving through, and knowing that you have like a part to play in that.
Totally. And I think it's a good reminder. I've had so many friends, boyfriends, and ex-boyfriends be Virgos. And it's interesting seeing friends want to solve the people who are trying to solve everything. It's like, I just want them to stop solving things. And now I'm like, oh, maybe not that they ask for any advice, but maybe the observation is that's just them, hun. Like, that's just, these are some foundational chains that they're, but isn't it sweet they care? Like, that's the other.
And if that's what they like to be doing, a lot of us don't. I think a lot of us want to solve the worrying because we don't want to be thinking about those things. And if that is the space where they feel most themselves and like this is a space that they like being in, I mean, what's a organizer without the chaos to organize? That's like it's making me think of like Be Our Guest, thing where it's like, if we're just flat, we're sitting around without the dinner party to be in, it's fine. We're gonna get dirty and we're gonna get washed, but we're being used at the party. Like we got to have a party to be getting
dirty.
Them hem and haw over what they're gonna eat at the place. Let them do it. You don't need to help.
And they're Mercury too, so like the verbalizing, like the speaking out loud. I think a lot of us are worrying just as much as Virgos. We just don't say it. They're just brave enough to say it.
Yeah, if we're worried that if we say it, we'll be doubted. We'll be we'll lose our authority. But
or if you're superstitious like me, I'm like, oh, it will come true if I say this out loud. So I'll just have it
Virgo's
slowly like, kill my insides.
This needs to be said out loud because also you can only process so much. And if I say what I am worried about, you might say, oh, actually we have a thing over here or whatever too. I think it's like not necessarily intentionally collaborative, but there is something about speaking things out that like lets people know what is there. It's like, I think it is really like a service to be upfront about your concern. So then it also alerts people to know that there are things going on that we all can chip in and do that. And I think Virgo like lets themselves be not messy really, but messy in that like neurotic kind of way. But so we know how hard people are working and what goes into doing these things.
Scorpios.
Libra.
Libras. That's right.
Wow.
Skip.
They all collected. Can you imagine?
They're so mad right now.
Happened where they thought it was going to keep going.
So sorry. It's because my dog was barking. Don't worry about it.
Hey, Libras, just remember that I'm the one that just remembered you. Okay, when you're telling me how I've been too hard.
Look, it's not you. It's me. I don't know. It's definitely go all out, and I feel like Libras have an understanding of what does it mean that they're taking me to this place, or what is it? There's this aesthetic thing that happens. So I feel like they are reading into it a little bit, where if you're like, let's go to the library, like that's a great suggestion for a Libra, but then they're like, what does it mean that they're taking me to the library on a first date? Like, can they not afford to take me on a date? Or are they like a library, like this is what they do every day, or you know what I mean? So there is a notion that if you are going to go all out, they'll read into that you really like them.
Mm-hmm. I think it's like wherever it is, it needs to be a reflection of them, not so much you. Like your favorite place can be your favorite place, and you can explain that this is your favorite place. But I think it does need to be like this is a place where we are going to be. I feel like this is almost more closer to the Leo things that we would say is like we need to be dressed appropriately. This is a place where we can like be seen, so to speak, where it is again, like we are out together in a, like, I don't know. I don't want to say necessarily like public, but there is something to me about that. That's like, I don't know. Yeah. Like to be noticed, to be observed, to be, I don't know, very on display.
Mhm. I think like Aries too, because it's no shade but all shade to the Libras, like it's not that hard to woo a Libra. Like they're pretty open and like they're very interested to see what you're about, and they're interested in people in general. So like even if maybe they're not necessarily romantically interested in you, like they just might think you're an interesting person. So that means things can adapt and change. However, I think like Aries, I would just be careful what you share with a Libra, because I like
Mhm.
what Lisa says. They're taking stock of everything you've just shared, and if it makes them feel comfortable or uncomfortable, I think keeping a little bit of mystery is encouraged, because Libras have a way of bringing out all this stuff in people, and not to say that they're doing it sneakily, but I don't like keep I don't like be mindful of like oversharing with the Libras, because I think it's very easy to do that. And then just also asking them if they like this. I mean, they're Venus sign too. Just be like, is this your jam? Is this a thing? And it's like they'll probably, yeah, I think direct, as always with the indecisive Libraness, like a direct yes and no question is always appreciated for the Libran folk too. Is like, are you into this place? Like, no, not really. Like, or like maybe next time we go do something like this, or they're open and adaptable too.
Scorpios,
Ay, ay, ay.
the thing I gleaned most from is to give all of your attention to them.
Mm,
Mhm.
I don't know
yep.
if that's, I feel like every sign feeds off of attention. This isn't like a thing about being selfish or self-serving. I think Scorpios definitely are people who uplift others, but I do think that as far as like being desired goes, I think that really tracks up top for them.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
It's hard with Scorpio. I'm surrounded by them, and I feel like my life with Scorpios is constantly them being like, "Yeah, you told me that already," um, or if I'm like, they're like, "Are you texting while you're talking to me?" I'm like, "Good God!" Like, and then I'm like, "But I'm a Taurus." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fucking texting. I have something to send." Like, you're not. I go the opposite. I'm like, you're actually not the most important person in my life. These are friends, mind you. I'm not trying to. I've also dated and fucked many, many Scorpios.
I
So
think that could also work. It can't like beginning of dating. I don't think
no, no,
that
no.
can
And
work.
that's
Yeah.
that's just
Mhm.
etiquette 101. No texting at the table. Maybe if they go sneak away to the bathroom. But I think too that attention, and they have just such good memories. Like it's annoying. So like they're gonna, if you're that Taurus showing them that special pocket watch 3 years later, they're gonna remember that thing. And I think I'm like borrowing off of the Libra stuff of like be careful of what you share too, because Scorpio does not let that just like slide out lightly. And I think, yeah, I think attention, because they pay so much attention, to get that back is like shocking or surprising to them if you can really like match their attention giving energy.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, no notes. I'm just like, yeah, that it does. I do feel like it is the.
I mean, once it's on, like that's the other
Yeah.
part too. The Scorpio ain't very subtle when it comes to if they want to put their stinger in you. they it's known.
So don't think I've engaged with Scorpio.
Oh,
That's what where I'm like, wait,
I've been
maybe.
engaged to Scorpio.
I know. I know.
yeah.
I think I have all of the Scorpio that I need where I'm like not I can't do more.
Mm-hmm.
Um
Sag is taking interest versus prying. There the
Hmm.
the text kind of basically, for lack of better terms, says they're not really that interested in you. So you don't need to push their boundaries at all.
Mm-hmm.
That tracks. Well, it's like not like I think it what I forgot what we were talking about, but there's something where it's like either like parental or like just boring, where it's like not the fact. I don't want to talk about the like facts of a thing. I want to talk about like what excites you about something. Not I don't want to see how much I don't want to like it's the boring stuff as opposed to like, oh, that's like I'm passionate about this, or I like that you're passionate about, like, tell me more about how that makes you feel, kind of thing. Not I don't think Sag necessarily gets a feelings rap, but I think when it is something that excitement is a feeling, and that is a thing that I want someone to make me feel, not like, oh, I'm putting like yeah.
I feel like the coming off of Scorpio too, with like all the attention and like prove it, like it's like kind of creepy to a Sag. I think if you're that, it's like, don't you have a life? Like,
Yeah.
don't you do your own thing? Don't you have your own friends or interests, or like just prove to me that you're a cool individual versus like, oh, that you could literally become like tethered to me in an instant. Like I feel like that like deep devotion of Scorpio, which again, Sagittarius are going to most likely have a lot of Scorpio placements as well. So not that there's no room for any of that, but I think Sag is impressed if you can stand on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. And speaking of standing on your own, Capricorn,
Yes.
they like serious and stimulating things. So, Joanne talks about art and theater and museums and those kind of things. I also think museum is kind of a cool example because I think they like to walk. And so that tackles both interests. And I also think a museum is a serious place. I mean, depending on, there's children's museums and stuff, but like for the most part,
there's museums of ice cream.
Yeah, for the
don't take a Capricorn to that.
Actually, I went there with a Capricorn.
You did?
She wanted to go.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think
but
that
it's something to be taken seriously. So it's something where there's a decorum, there's a way we behave, and all of those kind of things.
Well, I think there's also something very Capricorn about museums in terms of things that have stood the test of time and have lasted and that are deserving of our respect and attention. And there is something where it's like having the reverence for that and having the wherewithal to like, I don't know, or being like, I want us to go be around things that are important,
old, yeah,
impressive.
Yes, all of this. And it's a way to like share your, even if you don't have to necessarily be the most knowledgeable about what's happening, but to know, like, I don't know, how do you engage with things that are clearly old, important, whatever.
Yeah, I do think that flush of Scorpio Sag Cap do value impressiveness. And it just is either maybe something they haven't seen before, or wow, you're like a carpenter, like your whole life is like doing wood stuff. Like it's just that's interesting to them. And I think Capricorn, I think it's a good reminder about like culture and things that have value, and back to like very earthy, tangible sorts of things. Like they don't want a dummy either. Like it's like you should have some interest in the world around you.
Investment and accumulation, not in a capitalism like money necessarily way, but I think it is like what do you spend your time on and your resources, and what can you do?
Love it.
Aquarius. I mentioned in my notes that they need to be able to depend on you. I think that's something that we don't talk about with Aquarius, is how fixed they are, and how they really do need like the trust and companionship stuff that I think we mostly place on other signs. Obviously they don't want to be taken to like the normie spot, but they also need to know that like you're going to be there when they stumble or whatever. So I think there is a being on time here that is maybe important, or an arranging transportation, or doing something that shows that like you're stable, because they might not always be.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
That's good.
wow. I've also fucked and dated many Aquarians, and ain't that I had never thought of it that way because I'm like, oh, I was really the dependable one. And also, like, they to value their community and their crew. So if you're their partner, that's like you're the
Mm-hmm.
highest, you're their co-cult leader, like you're the
Mm-hmm.
highest member of that crew. And like, I think getting along with their friends is really important. Being able to come into their world, like all the Aquarians I dated were the total opposite of me, totally different interests, but I could go to their metal shows, and hang. Like I'm not like, oh, I'm never gonna be into that thing you're into. And I think we don't have to be the same, but you have to respect
Yeah.
the things the community and the worlds that I'm in.
I was just going to say respect. And I think that is what you're saying, Lisa, of like the on time and the dependability and all of that is like taking them seriously, not in a
Mm-hmm.
way that's like condescending or whatever, but in a way that like is valuing their unique existence, because it is likely to have some things where you could go like, oh, I'm thinking of like, this is maybe too cliche, but like Dungeons and Dragons or something like that, where someone could go like, oh, or like, oh, you're playing video games. Oh, you design this thing, you make miniatures, you do whatever. Like they might have eccentric things that you could,
Interests.
yes, where
Yeah.
you could go like, oh, or you're like, oh, you're still a punk rocker. And it's like, no, you're devoted. Yes, they're unchanged, whatever. Like, yeah, you have to respect that and understand that that's important to them. If, yeah, like you said, it doesn't have to be important to you, but you can't be like, oh, your little toys.
Be my this snob energy is something I think
Mm-hmm.
Aquarian. If you're gonna date Aquarian, be mindful of being snobby towards them, and also Aquarians can be quite snobby right back. So it's like a fine line of back to respect. It's like, yeah, they collect Legos, but like they have it in like a glass vault. Like it's obvious. Yeah, it's fucking rude to be like, oh, you like Legos. It's like clearly I have this fucking room dedicated in my apartment to it. Yeah, bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, well, also with Aquarians, it just, if it's gonna work, it's gonna work. Like if you're in, if they grant you permission in, you're granted permission. I think in the very fixed signs are like that. That
Also,
applies to all of them.
if you're out,
Mm-hmm.
you're out.
Oh, if
Like
you're out,
that's it.
you're yeah,
Way
you're
Mm-hmm.
out.
you're whacked.
Um, Pisces. This one really stood out to me because my mom's a Pisces, and I think this is really something I've learned from her. But also, I think it goes in with talking about sentimentality, which I think gets put on them a lot. But it's just remembering the things that they say. So if they have a
Mm,
big test coming up, or they have a uh
Mm-hmm.
thing at work, or they're having trouble with a friendship or another relationship, to remember and like check in about those things. And I think we think of sentimental as being like remembering the past and the old, and not like remembering the thing that's really important to somebody, or like what they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
mm,
I think what they're into at the moment too. I guess that's all of those things of like remembering what they say, because they are gonna change. They're
Yeah.
mhm.
Pisces. Like it's not drastically or whatever, but maybe.
Think seeing them, like they can see other people and they like are so sweet at recognizing people's gifts and talents and just being impressed. I feel like I always get the nicest texts of my life from my Pisces friends where they just say just very sweet affirmations. And I think Pisces can sometimes feel invisible a lot of the time, or like they're just kind of moving through, or like, I don't know. I can see them being like, well, no one would show up for little old me, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, you're valued. We love you. Good God, be kind. Be as kind to yourself as you are to every single person that is around you. So I think, yeah, noticing them, um, that's very, very sweet. And I think they would love that.
Yes.
Well,
Well, that's the 12.
Wow. How much
No
should we?
Ophiuchus.
Well, there's so much you can do with
I
Ophiuchus.
mean,
So
So
much.
much to love.
Yeah. Ignore them. Don't return their text.
Yeah, I was like, Viscius absolutely loves to be nagged.
I'll just give us a little quick highlight of our solar return chart for this 2023, if that works for y'all. And if you guys don't know at home, a solar return chart is basically your birthday chart. It's when the sun comes back to your natal sun, usually on your birthday, but it might be like the night before or the morning after. Just depends because planets and tilts and axes and all that jazz. But our birthday is February 15th, 2018. So our solar return chart for 2023, we are I'll screen share this because I forget we're on. Oh yeah, we're on YouTube now.
We're on YouTube.
Another
Subscribe, like,
thing.
comment, share.
It's fun over there. You can see my tabs with girls series and all that shit. But this is our solar return chart for 2023. We're a Leo rising this year, ladies.
Ooh,
we got the moon in Sagittarius in the 5th house, which sounds pretty fun to me. And also sounds like
node and MC. Whew.
Yeah, Uranus in the 10th house, which seems, I mean, I like thinking of Uranus too as like, wow, I don't know what that will mean. I think I'm gonna hide my bookmarks just now. Anyway,
wow.
But I think Uranus too is that things you wouldn't see coming. So I hope it's good stuff, especially with the node up there. So who knows? I don't know. Maybe it's
look at this beautiful Venus Neptune conjunction. This
I know,
Saturn Sun exact conjunction.
Give us your money, everybody. And then Sun Saturn. Yeah, in the 7th house, I could see that being new partnerships, new contracts, new collaborations. I know we want to have more guests and even more listener questions too. So I feel like that's really in that community, and it's nice sextile to the Sag moon. So it's all very encouraging. The biggest like square off it is this 6th house Pluto with Mercury here, getting a square from the nodes, which I think, the hardest part of operating a business or pod is the day-to-day stuff and the routines. So maybe a refreshing there. Never hurts to refresh your day-to-day operations. Gemini Mars in the 11th too feels very going out and doing live shows and like meeting more people and, that community sort of effort. I mean, Jupiter Aries 9th, international travel, anyone publishing, anyone,
I find that Pluto square the nodes is so like, throw this away, start over, get this done. Like, I find it so like empowering in a way where Pluto normally scares the fuck out of me, but I feel like when it's the node, like it has to be something for for the purpose, for the good, for the thing,
and like that growth. I mean, getting rid of what's like not working and keeping what does. That I think they also are in like I don't want to say the right places, but like
totally.
The South Node is like, oh yeah, we know. I mean, like we've said, it is how do you move forward when everything you've ever said is like on record and kind of like being able to like move past that, or knowing where you've fallen short, being very public and having people watch you. I don't want to say fail because I don't feel like we fail, but that thing, whatever it is that you're like afraid of, you do have to clear yourself of that in order to move forward to your next things and be able to see yourself as something that can be growing and changing and expanding and not limited to what it's been.
And I think people have seen us fail, not like at the podcast, but we talk about our lives. So like,
I was gonna say we still show up when crazy shit is happening to us, and not that it means we have to come on here and be like, this is how, like, we're not that kind of woo-woo and wellness podcast. It's like, this is the key to unlocking all of your joy and happiness. It's like, no, we just have to keep I think what astrology has taught me is like those shitty times do go on. They're not forever. They do move forward. Like tracking time, which is basically astrology with, this mythological folklore twist, has been like, oh, like things will keep going. We will have Uranus in Gemini soon. We're about to have Saturn. We're in the final days of Saturn and Aquarius, and Pluto. Oh God, and don't even get started on Pluto as well. I mean, that's going to be, there are things and shifts and things coming. And I think too, especially with like time and the length of projects, I think I was telling Pablo this over our late steakhouse dinner last night of like, talking about like what we're doing this year and our goals and this stuff. And I'm like, I mean, if it sucked to record and keep doing this, that would have ended, if it wasn't restoring, even if like didn't have it, even if we reduce it to one episode a month and never like reduced everything. It's like, it's just such like a important part of my social, emotional, astrological friendship practice. Like I can't imagine not, but also it's because we're not there yet either. Like I'm sure at like 90 we'll be like, okay guys, I think it's time to,
Sure.
call the pod. But for now,
Well,
it's like, it's just, there's so many options to make. Like now it's been, the baby is born. Now it's
Yeah.
like, what's kindergarten like for it now? Like, what is it going to focus on here?
I also think, and this is something that maybe is like the Mars in the 11th or the Gemini thing. I just feel like as many other astrology things as there are, like you don't really hear astrologers talking about the things we talk about and together. It
Mm-hmm.
feels like there is, and I think it's like another reason to subscribe to our Patreon and support us financially is that there's three of us and we've never, not ever one of us has missed an episode. It's not like one of our thing, it's all of our thing. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe someone might have to miss an episode in the future or whatever. That's like something that whatever shit happens. But
Yeah.
for the most part, we schedule around the three of us. Even when we have guests, we schedule around four people, sometimes six people. Like we've made this podcast work as a group of astrologers talking about astrology, which is not something other people do. Sure, like
Mm-hmm.
astrologers have other guests or whatever or talk in tandem with other people, but um like the three of our lives moving too and all of those things. So I think that it really is like unlike any other thing, like I dare I
Mm-hmm.
say, in that, it's there's you see the friendship but also the astrology stuff.
Mm-hmm. I think being wrong too is our secret sauce. And we've interacted with many astrologer, very professional people, and I get being wrong in astrology is not encouraged. Like people really want accurate predictions. They really want, to know what's going to happen. And I think, I mean, haven't we, if we knew that what was all going to happen because of the stars, everyone would be using astrology. Things are nuanced and life happens and things change. And I think having the freedom to not feel like we have to be, I don't feel any pressure to like make perfect guesses of what's going to happen, because we're just kind of like talking about it in like a brainstormy way that ends up just being the pod. And I feel bad that so many solo astro people have such, and that pressure is put on them a lot of times from their followers, is to like tell me what the fuck's going to happen. And I think none of us, they don't know that, by the way. No one knows it.
No one
They can make
knows.
their best guesses, and we have historical context of what happened in the astrological past. But it's fun to muse at what could, or what the energy is going to be. And it's weird how much of the time it's been accurate from what we've talked about. I don't think accuracy is our goal, but just by organically letting us do astrology, we continue to get better at it.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, we talked about Rihanna with Saturn Pisces stuff, and she's
She's
now
coming
had a baby and
back.
coming to the Super Bowl. Like
I mean,
there are
classic.
our pop culture references are excellent. I mean,
Mhm.
I mean, sure, maybe I'm not like up to date on the, Ukraine crisis, but we're doing our best.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're doing our best, but I think, yeah, there's a I I'm excited for this. You know what's fun? I was looking up, because I was looking at old returns, and look at 2020, by the way. Home.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
We're
Oh my God.
home. We're not out. We're down
Yeah.
here. We're
Oh.
holding up these walls with our
Whoa.
bare hands. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, literal. So yeah, this is also fun to for folks who
Wow.
want to look at, I think, because astrology, this is 2021. If you want to move through the
Mhm.
time a little bit.
Coming up, but not out fully. Yeah.
Coming
Mhm.
up, first house stuff too, like who am I? What are we doing? What are the
Yeah.
things? Like, I don't know.
Gosh,
Nothing
all
up.
of that Aquarius.
Really,
Okay.
Mercury
And then,
retrograde as well at that
yeah.
time.
Oh,
And then this last year, 2022, okay, we're a little back
Oh.
up. We're, got
Yeah.
that Taurus rising.
Weddings for
yeah.
sure.
Very seen, back. Is it, I mean, God, if you told me like what happened in 2022, I'm like, I don't really remember.
Yeah.
But still this like
This
Leo moon root home. But
Yeah, but I was like that moon Saturn opposition too, I feel like, of like the home out uh yeah.
responsibilities
And
and
this all this I mean, all that ninth house and Neptune, Jupiter, Neptune in the 11th.
lots of cap.
Party time, baby.
This is like definitely like a funner solar return chart.
I'm
I will
looking
say,
forward to
2023.
this.
This is really interesting.
Should I look at 2024? Should I say it for next year?
Let's see.
All right, let's just see, because then we'll come back and reflect.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
I mean, I have to see how this next, but fourth. I mean, well, maybe it is here. How about this? 2023. Wow, like explosive fandom, stardom, and then we all buy our like beach houses, and then we're home, and then that's it. Then we retire.
Yes, but I mean,
we're all just
I
trying to
think
get
we're not gonna
real estate.
retire, but
No.
we'll just get
No
more
way.
houses.
But I mean, look at this. Look at this. Like, you know. Okay.
I see retreat in a way, but it maybe because I see 12th house south node too, where it's like maybe we are traveling and coming back and doing retreats or doing something like
That'd
that.
be fun.
Yeah.
What if we all move in together? I don't know.
Okay.
That's
okay.
Count me in.
Yeah.
Also, this is again, I know you said it before, a great reminder to get on our YouTube. There's no ads over there. You can see all this chart stuff we're looking at. Yet, I know.
Yet.
Well, keep it going, baby, and then you'll get the YouTube ads. So skip
to
after
that
5 seconds.
Get us to that 2024 fourth house.
Yeah, seriously, we're trying to get them beach houses. Or like 2024 will be so weird. We're like, we all actually have to hide in our bunkers. Just kidding.
Yeah, but I mean, all of this, I don't know. I like that. At home, that feels like a place of security to me, not in a bad way, but in a way where it's like that's like a foundational with Venus right there on the IC and conjunct Pluto and Mars, of that being like, so I don't know, action oriented and also values oriented, and this like, I don't know, transition into the future. I mean, we don't know what the world is going to be like you said. I hope it's not literally our bunkers, but I think also learning how to transition your values into transformation and action, because I do think that we take our like, I don't know. I know we don't take ourselves as seriously in this because it's that, but also we don't take it lightly that we have an audience and that you guys listen to us and that you are like, I mean, I hope
Here
you're not
for
looking
5 years.
Yeah, I mean, you've been listening to us for 5 years. We are integrated into your lives, and that means a lot to we wouldn't do this if that also wasn't happening too. As much as that we do hang out and enjoy each other's company outside of this too. But I think that knowing that there are people listening to us and counting on us and finding value in what we do and being, that roots us, I think, in how we engage with the world and have our conversations, and allows us to be open and messy and want to be forthright about the things that we're learning and how we're growing, because we know that you are going through the same thing. We're all living in this world that's changing and learning to adjust and adapt to that. And thank you for letting us be part of your experience.
Yeah. And also too, for 2024, this Saturn and Neptune in the 5th house, it feels like, oh, maybe just only getting to work on fun, creative things only.
Fuck, sextile Jupiter in the 7th. Hello. This beautiful Taurus moon.
Especially too, I mean, I bitch about this all the time, but podcast lists and shit like that. It's like, you guys like, I would love to have Conan on, but it's like, you guys are aware of like Conan's pods. You know what I mean? You're choosing to listen to something indie and, intimate. And I think that that's really sweet. And we hope to see you over on Patreon. We got to plug it again, because come on, this is how it functions. Patreon.com. Also, come to our Discord. We can chat. We can share. I know Patreon, I know we're pretty loose over here, but we don't bleep out names over on Patreon. Let's just say that.
We haven't, I mean, yes.
like we bleeped a couple times, but that was like, because the law would have come after us if we had not bleeped some things, but overall not very bleeped or edited over there.
Also, with podcast lists and stuff, I want you guys to know that those are submitted to, same as like 30 under 30. People like ask to be on those.
And
we ask when we have extra time to email, which is not always. So
yeah.
We are also, we've had so much gratitude for people who've put us on lists without our asking and all of those kind of things. But It's a game. It's a hustle out here.
You know what? Maybe this is only because it's our 2023 solar return and we have all this eighth and seventh house stuff. If now I'm like making a job listing, if you want to be part of the What's Your Sign team, but seriously, like if you're passionate about this pod and you're in marketing or you're in this, like let's throw it together. And like, we love keeping cool people in our radar. And oh god, everyone I've ever met through this pod too has just been like
Awesome.
outstanding.
Amazing.
Yeah,
The coolest people that are creative and smart and have cool things going on and interesting opinions.
We have the coolest listener base. Like,
yeah,
I've been to other live pods and seen the other listener bases. Not good. No.
yeah. Which is why we want to travel more. We want to meet you out and about. And also, I love that. If you have ideas for us, if you, let's collab, baby.
You never know. Well,
thanks for another great year.
Thank you.
Come to our live show on February 15th at Whammy in Los Angeles and keep on listening.
Thank you so much. We love you. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.